Good evening, and thank you for joining us. My name is Margot, and I'm the manager of public programs here at the Brooklyn Museum. I am accompanied on stage by ASL interpreter Candice Davider and later Toli Tolman. Thank you, Candice and Toli, for expanding this conversation with us. It is my absolute honor to welcome you to tonight's Brooklyn Talks featuring the Blondes responding to our special exhibition, Solid Gold. Solid Gold is a sprawling, shimmering exhibition dedicated to the element that has inspired countless works of art, fashion, film, music, and design. This evening, we'll be exploring gold in the context of sartorial art, and we have the unique opportunity to hear from the Blondes on some of their glittering collaborations. Born out of a desire to make clients feel both empowered, confident, and strong, the Blondes juxtapose luxury materials with hardware like chains and spikes. In this conversation, Phillipe and David Blond discuss the exhibition, they take it as their inspiration, and also delve into the genesis for their brand, the process of creating custom pieces, and the many entertainers whom they have adorned, including Madonna, Beyoncé, Rihanna, Jennifer Lopez, and Nicki Minaj. They'll be joined in conversation by curator Matthew Yokobosky. After the conversation, we hope that you'll stick around to buy a copy of their gorgeous monographic book, which we have on stage left. They're really beautiful, great holiday gift, and also stay for a personalized book signing. The Solid Gold exhibition is also open exclusively to everyone here. Anyone who has a ticket to tonight's talk is welcome to head upstairs to 5 afterwards, and you'll have after-hours viewing of the exhibition until 10 p.m. Without further ado, please help me in giving a warm Brooklyn welcome to Matthew Yokobosky and the Blondes.
Welcome, the Blondes.
Hello.
So we are here because of Solid Gold that features a lot of your work. The Solid Gold exhibition was created in a celebration of the museum's 200th anniversary. And we were looking at a through line in our permanent collection and also the world of something that was a little bit more universal. And I really loved a conversation that I heard you do when you had your retrospective at SCADFash in Atlanta recently, where you talked about gold was your color.
Wow. I've always thought of the Blondes as being larger than life, and there's nothing more iconic than gold. What else is there but gold, right? It's godly. It's just everything that you imagine when you think of show and stars. So.
Well, first of all, thank you guys all for being here.
Yes, thank you.
This is, intimate,
Very intimate. I feel like I'm in my living room.
Yeah, right. If only. So, yeah, I think it's a really amazing thing, and we're so honored to be a part of the exhibition here. And it makes so much sense for us because gold, the color and the material is something that we use very often in all of our collections. So it's a point of reference. There's so many different facets to that particular material and color. So we always try to figure out a way of incorporating it, as you can see.
I mean.
Always have a little gold, right? But you have a lot of points of inspiration.
Oh my God.
This is, we were having a conversation one day and they said, oh my God, do you know Jen and the Holograms? And I had to go on a deep dive to read about them and see the videos. But it was an animated series about a rock band in the 1980s, which was a time MTV was very popular at the time. But what spoke to you about this particular cartoon?
For me in particular, it was, well, first of all, I grew up, I was born in Puerto Rico, in Fajardo, and Yeah, dale. And I was inspired by music, first of all, and I used to find that that was my escape for sketching and creating at a very young age. I didn't even know what fashion was at the moment, and I remember turning on the television and seeing, Gem and the Holograms, and Puerto Rico is more like Gem and the Holograms, but there's a lot more to Gem and the Holograms. It was about fashion, it was about music, rock stars, and good and evil, and all these things, and villains and whatnot. But Jerica had these special earrings that she would touch and she would turn into Gem, and suddenly she was like this larger-than-life rock star who had this entire fashion suddenly, empire, and would I think was a cloak for her for good. I think she would make it happen. She was like a positive.
Yeah, she was the hero.
Yeah, the hero.
It's funny. There are so many different parallels from our childhood where we would have all these inspirations, and then Phillipe and I our love for animation obviously stemmed from that. Things like that, and watching Wonder Woman, and all these other.
She-Ra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have the power when you transform.
Absolutely.
Transformation's such a great theme for your work. But also, back to the 80s, it was such a great moment for the re-emergence of the form of music videos. And because it was television and it was short, you had to create a look for your music video at the time. And we're going to talk in a little bit more about performers and their work. But let's say a little bit more about inspiration.
Yes.
So another person was Edis Chong.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Edis Chong, well, my dad is actually, it starts all with my father. He was the one who showed me these things that I guess he liked. He thought I would like too.
For different reasons.
Well, no, I don't know, but I find it to be very special. I thought he maybe saw something in me that I gravitate towards at the end of it. And Edis Chong is, an inspiration, not just Edis Chong, but, Charo, and music again brings like Gilberto Santa Rosa and Tito Puente, Celia Cruz. Things like that kind of like shaped and mold my inspirations, and I think build this world in my mind without even knowing at the age and time I was seeing these things. I mean, the monsters and things like that just felt like a magical escape to me, and I think Edis Chong, she is a Puerto Rican, and she is all out there, and she is spicy, and she doesn't care, and it felt empowering, and I think ultimately at the end, it turns out that we just like to make people feel that way, because I feel like we all have that within us. We're a little scared, but there's so much power to us that we have not discovered, and I feel like at a young age this kind of gave me that, like, I don't know how you call it. It just felt great. It felt like there was this universe I could just discover later on, and it turns out.
Well, I think it's interesting that you have Edis and you have J-Lo on there. Because
oh, absolutely, right.
Our inspirations are deeply rooted, especially in the Latin community. I'm Cuban and Spanish. Phillipe is Bolivian and Puerto Rican. So we really do draw on our childhood from the women in our families. Those things really resonated with us in our youth, again, and that's sort of where we pull from, all the time.
No, I love that, and I love that you paid so much attention to media, moving media, because I often feel like when I'm looking at your runway shows, it's clearly so much about the movement and how someone's walking out and the presentation of it. And speaking of, you were also inspired a bit by Terry Mugler.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, Mugler, I mean, nothing compares. When I was a child, I mean, I was inspired by, first of all, there's nothing like Ginny Becker, Laura Nazursky,
Elsa Clinch, CNN,
yes,
like all those shows.
all these shows I used to look forward to. I used to stay up late to watch them and just pray to get a glimpse of Mugler, anything I could see, that because it just felt so connected.
Yeah, he was sort of like our fashion hero.
Yeah.
And complete idol, especially in the beginning. And then we sort of put our own stamp on things, you know, but our core inspirations were Bob Mackie,
Absolutely,
Terry Mugler,
Bob
Vivienne
Mackie.
Westwood, Gautier, all of the people, Galliano, that would, you know, really go there, do the shows, do things in a way that seemed to create an escape for people that were over the top, that were aspirational and incredible.
But not just creating an escape. You know, there was a lot more to it than just the escape part of it. There was the construction part of it. There was the layering part of it. There was the makeup part of it, the accessories, you know, the nails, it went on and on and on. And it was these things that I think that we just kind of take for granted on a regular basis. If you know, you're not a crazy fashion person like we are, but.
No, I think it's really important. You know, a lot of the things that happen when you're doing a fashion exhibition oftentimes is that you're just showing the dress. You don't have the full effect, and which is why we had such a long conversation about the wigs for the Egyptian disco collection. The hair and makeup and shoes, nails, it's just all so much a part of the look. And I think that's why you responded so much when you saw Mugler and Gautier, because they were doing the whole production.
Yeah. Egyptian disco is so amazing for us. I feel like we connected so much with that. We weren't, first of all, Egyptian disco, we were like, we're going to do a gold show. It's going to be gold. And then we were listening to Donna Summer and the Bee Gees and kind of grew into like, okay, it's going to be Egyptian disco. And I remember us talking about the invitation. And the invitations when we were doing that were like, you know, people were mailing them out. It wasn't like, you know, get a PDF or whatever it is. But Scott Ewalt would do our invitations, and he would do these poster-size invitations, and they were just like, I mean, gorgeous. But there's so much more to that collection, the Egyptian collection. I mean, in Egypt, they would prepare years, their entire life, for their death, which sounds a little grim, but it was very glamorous. They would prepare their entire life and bead these gowns that they were going to wear in their deathbed, I guess, and their hair and their, you know, wrappings, and there was so much more to it. It wasn't just, you know, die and go.
Well, their whole life seemed to be about accumulating ornamentation of the body, you know, ornamentation of the hair. There was the makeup. There's so much to draw from there. But obviously, we wanted to make a fun twist, so we were listening to disco. There was the queer element of like Sylvester. There were moments like that in this collection.
And absolutely,
Pepper LaBeija, you know,
Elizabeth Taylor,
which
brings
obviously
me to, you know, when I saw that movie, I just I couldn't believe how incredible and cinematic it was. It was like a movie should be. You know, it was about costume and makeup. And if you look behind the scenes, there were so many pauses between creating this movie. You know, for personal reasons with Elizabeth Taylor at the time, but I think like
drama,
but all made sense at the end. And it just excites me that there was those pauses, because it just made it's so grand, and it's not CGI and it's not green screen. You know, these were like
practical effects
and extras, and, you know, I mean, there's a lot. I don't know if anyone's seen this movie, but
Watch this movie. Yeah.
yes, watch it.
It's really great. I do think sometimes, though, that a pause in the creative process is actually useful.
Very healthy.
Yeah, very healthy. I always think back to like when, this is crazy, but when Green Day was making their American, what's the one that they did the Broadway show about, and they had recorded the whole album, they lost the masters, and then they had to record it all from the beginning. Mm-hmm. But then I think that sometimes that you actually end up creating something even greater. And so perhaps that's a little bit what happened with Elizabeth Taylor's
Yeah, you get a chance, I think, to
Cleopatra.
revisit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not over.
Yeah.
Yeah. In going with that, one of the things that was very interesting for me about the Egyptian disco collection too was the use of materials. Irene Sharaf, when she was doing Elizabeth Taylor's outfits, she was using material that had 24-karat gold on it. They were filming during bright sunlight. Mm-hmm. I mean, lucky filming in Rome. But I remember you were telling the story. When I first went to them to talk about, like, oh my God, what do you have in gold that we could have for the exhibition?
We were like, well,
we have a lot. But Phillipe brought out this gold python dress first.
Yes. That's actually one of my favorite dresses. Mm-hmm. We've been planning it for years before making it, and it turns out it takes 13 skins to make it, and you have to ¿cómo se dice?
Strategically.
Yes, lay them out and place a pattern and make sure you don't ruin it, because I mean,
once you cut it, forget it.
Yeah, forget it. And we had these specifically dyed and specifically treated to be this shiny.
Well, let me preface, this is when we used skins.
Yes.
Now we try to do everything faux.
I'm the
now.
Cruella. I'm the evil one. But
it was very specific. You had to use a certain part of the skin. It had a laminate process that was very. It took a long time, and then in order to make it, fit the body properly, you really had to choose the seam wisely, because there is no give, there's no stretch. It doesn't even give as much as a leather would. Like a snake's skin is so delicate, if you pierce it, it can also rip. So there's so many different things you have to go through to construct it.
But did you have a model in mind?
I was the fit model.
Oh, you were the fit model. You're often the fit model. Correct?
I am.
Yeah.
I mean, when we first started the Blondes, first of all, it was just like an idea, right? We started off as, going out. First of all, I just want to rewind a little bit. David and I met at my prom night. I laid eyes on David, and forever he was mine after that.
I didn't go to the dance. You skipped, and
I skipped my prom to get into the Roxy. I was very lucky that night. Flotilla, the barge, I think was her name, was at the door, and she was like, "You are cute. You come in here." So I got lucky. I was with my best friend Olis, and I met David, and after that we've been together, stuck to the hip ever since, and thankfully, where were we?
You were talking about when we met.
Yes, so we met, and we used to go out. David introduced me to nightlife and we had to make outfits, like we were going out every single night. And I remember just, again, being inspired by Gem and the Holograms, She-Ra and all these Bob Mackie, and we just needed outfits, period. So we would come up and make these things. We had all
this creative energy that we needed to expel. And
exactly.
Once he and I experienced a Suzanne Barge party for the first time, it was like, this is where we're supposed to be, and we totally got it. And that's where we really started, gathering the seeds of what we were going to do.
And there wasn't no
eventually.
Instagram, so you couldn't just like,
You could have fun.
just scroll through your phone or see these things. Like, we were really being creative and creating things and wearing them out. And I remember bumping to Patricia Fields, who was like, "Who made those jeans?" And we were like, "We did." And she was like, "I need a pair. I need a pair for Sex and the City. I need a pair, I need a dress. I need this, I need that." And then it just so happened I was going to fashion high school, fashion industries. I wasn't just like, I fell into fashion. I was always interested in that. But it was just a building step for us, or for me to be, have artistic license to make it happen.
But how did you, from that moment until you were the blondes, I'm sure there were transition hair colors.
There were
yeah.
many, yes.
There were the brunettes before that.
Yeah, so if you can imagine, we used to have pale hair, and we would dye it jet black, and we were very emo and goth, which totally shocked my family when I brought Phillipe to a wedding in Ocala.
The blondes are a little goth. They
Florida.
have a little goth in them.
Anyway, so we started off that way, and then we sort of evolved into this like bleach blonde madness, and started kind of calling ourselves Phillipe and David Blond as these sort of caricatures that we kind of came up with, and then we started thinking about what to do with the line and what to call it, and then eventually we just kept, every time we turn around, we would see something with this sort of blonde aesthetic, whether it was Barbie or Dolly or, and it just sort of came.
Marilyn Monroe just encompassed everything.
Mm-hmm.
Old Hollywood encompassed everything we had in our mood board at the time. Without realizing, everyone was blonde. Okay, whether it was whoever it was.
Yeah, and I mean, the
Donna
idea
Summer.
behind it at the time was like, anyone can be a blonde, anyone can have fun, anyone can be glamorous and
You don't
express
have to be
themselves.
blonde to be blonde.
Right.
That was my...
That's a good line. We're also looking here at an outfit that you did called the Venus corset, from
Yes.
homage to Blonde Venus.
Yes, that was a really cool show. I think it was one of my favorite shows. I think it was one of those moments where you realize, like, when you're in this young path and first, like, discovering who you are as an artist. I think that show kind of, like, tickled my pickle, because I was so excited for the reaction that it got. I was inspired by Marlene Dietrich, Blonde Venus. I don't know if anyone's seen that movie. If you haven't, go check it out.
Well, you'd probably have to buy it on Amazon.
I know. But it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. And you see her, and I never expected this moment. He actually introduced me to the movie, and I was watching it, and he's like, "You got to pay attention to this part." And when I saw that moment, that reveal was just so impactful, and I thought to myself, wow, we have to do that one day. Without knowing it, fast forward, it came to this, show we did.
And I think, Dustin, you were there, right? You remember?
Dustin, hey. Yeah, and I came out of this gorilla, and in the reveal is, there is a party, and there's, in the context of the movie, it makes sense, but me explaining it right now, not so much. But
But you also, another season, you did kind of the tuxedo look with the top hat.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Yes, that was a fun reveal. It was a tuxedo in the front, naked in the back. It was a party, business in the front, party in the back.
Party in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when we really got into the reveals. That's another thread with, like, Marlene is always there too. There's always, those characters always revolving. It's Marilyn, Marlene, Josephine,
Speaking of reveal, you also have another material you've worked with is chainmail, and it's revealing on its own because it has all those holes automatically in it. And here we're looking at the poison dress that you did, which the spikes in that then eventually became a version of an outfit that Kim Cattrall wore in Sex and the City.
Yes. So it's so funny. Rihanna and I met and she was like, "Oh my God, girl!" Like we exchanged numbers. We became besties for this time being during Rated R, and she would call me out of the blue, and she would be like, "I want gold spikes and gold spike." Glasses and things, and I was like, why don't we create? And I was working with Leora from Noir Jewelry at the time, and I was like, you know what? Why don't we make this dress happen? And Leora was like, oh my God, that's gonna be impossible. It's gonna be so heavy. And then she was like, I'm so excited. Let's make it. And we created this super incredible dress that ¿cómo se dice? It's accompanied by Christian Louboutin shoes, who's also a really amazing designer, and he created these platform spiked, super heavy shoes. I don't know if you.
Well, you can see them in the
They're a
exhibition.
weapon.
Yeah, they're a weapon.
But yeah, the interesting thing about it though is that it's like head to toe. Like she wanted to be in a head to toe look for that particular album release. And
Very dangerous.
It made sense. Throughout that whole period, we dressed her in spikes. We did her in a bullet belts. We did her in all these like really aggressive looks.
It was a vibe, and I think it inspired a lot more after that.
And then eventually you did a spike print and a collection.
Yes, because I figured there were, our clients were like, oh my God, that dress is crazy heavy. Although this is just the beginning. This was one dress. We made how many after that?
We sold quite a few of those, that exact dress, strangely. And
Yeah.
people are happy to wear it.
I was
The same
like,
thing with
making the
Sex and
first
City.
one, we were like, we're never going to
gonna
make this dress again. And then, I mean.
It's like blood, you bleed.
Yeah,
Just from making it.
It's
yeah.
handmade. It's plated. It's the settings going first, then the stones. It's just a lot of work.
The plating process for the gold element itself, because it's all 24 karat gold, it has to be dipped in pieces into this large vat, and so the dress itself, it's very difficult to do, so that you do all the elements. Then once they're all gold, then you put them together. Yeah.
Beautiful. Do you warn people ahead of time you're ordering a dress that weighs 40 pounds?
Yes.
Yes.
I try to. A lot of times, like don't bother, don't.
I mean, I'd like to think that I am a fashion people say like fashion victim, but I'm like a fashion warrior. Like I will, like my feet will bleed. Like I'm a 40 and a half, 40, but I will cramp into a size 8 if I need to. If I love the shoe, I will suffer. I will not breathe. I will not it could be tight and I will be happy, because that's fashion to me.
It's like what Celine Dion said. She said, "Don't ask me what size I wear. Tell me what size you have."
Yes, exactly.
Next image, drape chain, and also congratulations on your New York Times arts
Yes,
section
thank you, New York
cover.
Times.
That's great. The interesting thing about this, I think, is the use of drape chains. And there's been designers like Laura Sazzaro, who began as a jewelry designer. He did drape chains for Tina Turner. Azzedine Alaïa has done some. And it's a very unique technique and approach to design. And I was totally blown away by how you kind of expanded the vocabulary and used mixed chains, different varieties, and different tones of gold in them.
Well, I mean, I think there's so many different ways you can utilize, again, these materials. I mean, there's one of our favorites is like the Cuban link, the Figaro link, you have the rope. There's so many different textures that you can create with the chains on their own and utilizing them all in this different sizes on a piece, or you can mix them together and create something that people, it's interesting because there's so many layers, you almost can't tell from afar what it is until you get up close. And then there's the weight factor.
Yes.
to that too. So we try to, try to
The
balance
chains
it.
are one of my favorite. The chain series are really super incredible for me. I've always been inspired by Clash of the Titans, and I love that scene of Andromeda being like chained to the rock and waiting for
The Kraken.
The Kraken, yes. And it just so happened that Kylie Minogue one day came into the showroom, and during this Aphrodite era, it just so perfect. I mean, it couldn't be better than Kylie Minogue at this moment. And
So all the visuals were of that. During the tour, it was all goddess. It was all like, she was all in the mountaintops and, with flowing dresses and chains and unicorns and sparkle.
and she came in and she was like, I want that corset. And we were like, oh my God, but it's so heavy. Well, he said, oh my God, but it's so heavy. And I was like, oh my God, she needs to try it on. And so suddenly David's like jerking her into this corset. And he's like, is that okay? And she's like, tighter, tighter, which are things I
The
want.
two of them are like,
I want to hear. And it was perfect. It was perfection.
But a lot of your pieces are based on the corset, which not everybody's used to wearing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you have to train people on how to wear corset?
I mean, if you're like a crazy corset person, absolutely, there's like training and there's all these things that you do for it. But if you're a fashion person and you're willing to wear something that's just gonna restrict you for a minute or two, I mean, it's totally fine.
just for the pictures, right? Well, it's interesting you bring up the idea of corset. I mean, that we usually use that as our basis because it creates the shape that we like. And so there's so many different levels to corsetry. There is a tight lacing community that actually, revolves around people like Dita Von Teese or Mr. Pearl.
Absolutely.
Who creates the couture corsets for people like Galliano, Dior,
Yes.
and that create these incredible shapes. And then you have the idea of the fashion corset, which is like Vivienne Westwood was probably the first person who came up with this idea of the Victorian corset worn as a top, where she added the stretch band in the back, which was revolutionary at the time. So
I know a corset is not just like I know some people may see like a corset or maybe on a form or someone just randomly wearing like this bustier, and then people just go, oh, that bustier, and it irks me when people say that about a piece.
it's a bustier, not a corset.
Yes, exactly. But no, a corset has so many layers to it. It's specifically cut to a person's shape and specifically curved to. For you to breathe and move a certain way when it's really made custom for that person. It's just really not just a piece of bustier.
Well, it's funny because people don't think they're comfortable, but if you do have something custom made and it is made to your proportion and to the right amount that you're supposed to take in at the waist, then it will inevitably be comfortable and actually be a good support.
It's a little bit like if you think about like ballet costumes that have that kind of a structure, but it has an elastic built into it so you can move in it, but it still gives that appearance of the corset.
Absolutely.
We've had to find that balance with performance of like having the structure and the push up and the cinch of the corset, but still give the movement and the freedom for someone to move within it. So it all depends on the moment and what they're trying to achieve and what choreography is happening, and that's what really informs us when we're constructing a piece.
As a contrast, I thought it'd be interesting to talk a little bit about pearls. These are it's a little bit different from working in the metal, and it has kind of a lighter, softer feeling to it.
This particular collection is super interesting. We collaborated with Tom Cruise and The Mummy at the time, and to make the show happen, I felt like pearls were just a way to go, and David was like,
Make a pearl mummy.
Make a pearl mummy. But no, there was more to that. There was just like incorporating pearls into denim, making them fashionable, making the pearls, incorporating them into denim, and adding feathers and incorporating pearls with spikes and also chains, and just, pearls are meant to be worn many different ways, just not just only on your neck.
All right. But, the pearls, I'm sure, were also weighty also. When
Absolutely.
You do a whole...
It's definitely sort of the softer side, and we do like to mix things that are hard and soft a lot of the time. And pearls actually were one of the first things we used when we were starting out. Like, we weren't able to get embroidery done. We'd have to go and sort of mine the flea markets and go all over New York City when we had these amazing places to go and find, found objects to use to embellish things.
Vintage.
And then we got into like all these seashells and like pearls and all this stuff, and we would just, either break apart things we would find, or again, just I'm from Florida, so I would just bring a bunch of stuff, and we'd make these like denim pieces with shells all over them, and that's kind of like how we kind of started. So the pearls are a strand of that, let's say.
Yeah.
But you do a lot of your work in the garment district. You collaborate with different manufacturers there, which, yay, applause for working in the garment district.
Yeah, I love it.
But your offices are there, you're working there, and it's a very tight collaboration in order to achieve all of these things. I remember one story David said was that they were experimenting with 3D beading or 3D embroidery, and if you look at some of their pieces, oftentimes if you have embroidery or beading, it's just kind of one layer, but you were doing embroidery like the beads and stones are like 3 high and deep, and you had a crazy experience where you had done that to an outfit, and because you had embroidered it so much, the sleeves didn't have any give, and you ended up having to cut them off.
I was so furious. I remember it was two beads, and I remember we waited. I sketched out this. I think it was our genie collection, and it was my look for the show, and I was so pissed. And I remember I came with scissors at it, and I tore the sleeves off, and it just didn't stretch right, and it was just like, bead on top of bead.
Well, shockingly, it was too small for even you, so yeah.
Can you imagine?
But you experiment, which I like, and I think that's part of the unique look that you're able to create with your pieces.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you go through a lot of experimentation in order to get to the specific finish that you want.
There are no rules when it comes to again, like, you have artistic license as an artist, as your owner of your brand, to experiment, and you don't have to just use the beads as a one layer. You can triple them, and you can build up on top of that. There are absolutely no rules to fashion, and that's what's so exciting to the blondes. Like, we will experiment, we will make it happen, we will create what we've envisioned.
That's what we were saying about not using the material. Like, we come up with the concept and then find the materials to then build what we envision.
Yeah, for instance, in this photograph, you might just see pearls, but there are 4 layers to this bodysuit. There's a base, which is a stretched fabric, and then there's a lace that was created and literally lace under the pearls. And there are tons and tons of pearls, and there's a pattern that David designed and he put together, very reptilian. And then there's like these super gorgeous ruby reds, and then there's like, I love these gloves for this show. They're python with rubies, and it just felt right with the red stones. And I love that hair.
It's good hair.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's now, since we talked a bit about your creative process, let's move on to the show, which is you've become so known for. Let's talk a little bit about casting. You always have the most dynamic people modeling your clothes, and they're all in 120 centimeter heels. does everyone come in being able to walk in heels that high?
Wow.
No, no, they don't. Well, it's interesting because like that's one of the things that sort of helps us edit when we're casting. It's not just the personality of the model; it's how they handle themselves in the shoes first, and then with the layer of clothing on as well. I mean, the fitting is all encompassing to see. And we're gauging that person on how they react and how excited they are, and when they try something on, what their attitude is like. Because you can tell after you try 2 or 3 things on a model what look they're going to be the best in, and really like shine in. I mean, and every time we've had like models that participate in the show, we always have, there's an authentic connection, there's a friendship, there's a relationship there, and it's not just for fun, for press. It's because we actually are inspired by that person.
And it also depends on the story of the show and the theme. I mean, how, oh my God, this person would be amazing for this show. Some people are like, oh, why don't you ever cast me on your show? And I'm like, it's just not the right time. And they don't really understand that. And it just so happens that the right time means like the right time for us and the right time for the show.
Yeah, anytime we feature someone in the show that works within the theme, like we try to build a moment around that person.
Like I feel like you'll be able to walk this show the way that you want to walk this show, or the way that we envision, or you'll be able to wear the clothes that we imagined as perfect as we dreamt it.
Love that. One of those people I think is Dominique Jackson, who I've seen in several of your shows, and just amazing walk. Yes.
Dominique Jackson can do anything. She does no wrong. She's gorgeous, and it's so funny because most people don't know the stress that you're under. People see the blondes and they think, oh, it's just a show. It's so much fun. But no, there's a lot of serious work behind it, and we're always stressed, and we're trying to figure out the deadline and figure out the fit and this and that, and our pieces coming in from, Italy or Paris or shoes, or like all this stress is happening, and then you have someone like Dominique Jackson that comes in and just kind of like
gets it
and makes you feel it's like oh, you feel awake again,
you feel re-energized,
and you feel re-inspired, and then you just want to try the whole entire collection. And obviously we only have but so much time during this moment in our slot.
But she's up for anything.
But she is,
which is amazing.
She is one that will cut off her toe to fit in a shoe. So I appreciate that.
Let's not do that.
No.
Okay. So this is a show that you did called Blonde Disco, another disco collection, that featured Lil Kim at the end.
Yes.
Yes.
You'll always have disco in the blondes. The blondes love disco. It's just like in our DNA. Yeah, Lil Kim. I mean, so perfect. I love her.
And not a size 0.
No, not a size 0 necessarily, but she's little, and she is.
Well, it's interesting because we've had quite a long relationship with her in terms of dressing her at every different phase. She even when she was pregnant, she performed at one of our after parties and still tore the roof off. It was it's just good, positive, amazing energy,
and glamorous, and she brings everything, and she's
another one that wants to go there. Like you can see the cinch on that waist. Like she's like, pull it, we're like,
oh my God, anyone that says pull it to your waist is like,
it was like, nobody breathe. Not that anyone can,
but what if you're working on a performer that can't be with you? It used to be that people would send their own mannequin.
It's an absolute luxury to have in-person fittings now, because everyone's schedule is so insane, and we work with so many different clients at the same time that you cannot be in the same room with everyone all the time. So it's nice when when things come together. But like what we were discussing the other day, for example, when like Nicki Minaj, like when she was having a round of pieces made, they had a 3-dimensional body form scanned that was made of a silicone. So it was like, it almost looked like a sculpture. So it was like the neck down to the thigh. and all of her proportions were precise. So you were able to pin into this, you were able to build on it, and then that way when they got it back, they didn't lose any time with fittings, because obviously she's got a very customized figure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's more common today than just people popping in.
Well, I mean,
depends,
now
Yeah.
there's like a fit model. We can do a fit model. We can do a fitting on a fit model and FaceTime or Skype. At the same time with the celebrity or the stylist, and make sure that everyone is happy and satisfied.
Yeah, everyone does things differently.
Yeah.
Different.
It depends. Some people find it very important to meet with us personally, and actually they micromanage those details, and some people are more than happy to just get the piece and then figure it out later with their own tailor. Sometimes they like more privacy. Some people, some people like to be in it,
Okay.
Yeah.
And similar, this is a collection you did with Daphne Guinness, who is also a fashion person, but also a music person.
Yes.
Yes. And performed at the end.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow, this is such a super special collection. I feel like I was in a zone for this collection. I was going through a lot, and I felt like red. Red is the only thing I could see at the time, and gold, red and gold, right? It sounds very Christmassy, but it's actually not. We're in hell here, so. Daphne was just incredible, and it just seemed so perfect for her to come in and just kind of amp up what we were feeling at the moment. And no one better than
she loved the theme.
Oh my gosh, she loved the theme, and she is a fashion person.
It was based on Dante's Inferno,
Yeah.
and Lady Death, the cartoon character.
Yeah, comic book, which is one of my favorite comic books. Lady Death.
Sorry,
and
graphic novel.
Yes, graphic novel. But Daphne is one of those people that speaks fashion. Fashion is a language. There's not many people that understand that as well as maybe like fashion people do, and I don't know. I feel like you're a fashion person, so you understand what I'm saying. But Daphne and I and David can sit down and have this a fantasy world conversation. We are all in the same place, in the same bubble, and we can be like, and then
Well, there's a shorthand to it.
Yeah.
You know how it's like when you meet somebody, you immediately click, and then you have these amazing conversations, and you just sort of, everything else kind of disappears when you're talking to that person, and everything sort of just clicks and flows, and it made total sense with her.
And it's beautiful at the end. You just,
And another one, it seems like you really clicked, was for Mulan Rouge, which was also has a very red opening to it, but you went in many directions.
Moulin Rouge was super gorgeous. It was super fabulous. I mean, it was larger than life for me at the time. I think it was one of the most hectic shows we've ever done.
It was very intense. There were a lot of stakeholders in this show, producers. There was the actors. We mixed the cast with models. So we tore the show apart and put it back together with a fashion show element woven into the story. So we had to do several rehearsals. We went to see the show several times.
Several days.
Phillipe did
of rehearsals.
Descended a sateen to open the show. Our version of sateen, the sparkling diamond, and
I was a sparkling diamond. It was actually, it wasn't just like your random regular fashion show during Fashion Week, and you just get pushed out into the runway and the show's over. It was really intense, and it was I had to get certified to come down the swing and make sure everything was good. And
yeah, when they opened the hatch, it was like, okay.
Yeah, I was like, what did I sign up for? Because I remember I was like, I want to do it. I want to get on the swing. And when they opened the hatch, I looked down and I was like, oh.
You just see the little trickle of confetti going down.
And every now and then you'll see like someone's head and they're like this tiny and you're like, oh yeah, but you know what?
But you model in all of your shows, which is very unusual.
I know. You know what's so funny? I when I was younger and I used to watch Full Frontal Fashion or anything like that, and I used to see designers at the end come out and just be like,
You know, and they'd come out at the end and they were like, you know, and they created these incredible like gowns and the show was like, I mean, beyond anything I've ever seen, and they would just come out in denim, you know, sort of like what I'm wearing tonight, very demure, but
mindful.
Yeah, very mindful. But and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna walk my own show. I'm gonna be in it. I want to see who's out there. I want to feel the vibe. I feel his music. I feel his jewelry. I feel his hair. I want to be all in this, you know. And there's no rules again, you know.
And I think then it translates to kind of a bit of celebrity for a fashion designer, which then was translated, for example, into Barbie.
Yes.
Yes.
Which I mean, it's crazy because we drew this, we sketched out this Barbie.
Well, again, that was the long story in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Like Barbie had their 50th anniversary, and we did this fantasy sketch and created a piece for that.
Yes.
So that was the starting point for that relationship. And then we did one of a kinds for charity. They had a blonde catalog with all these things, so almost like a Neiman's catalog with all these different things. So we did one of a kinds for that, and then it developed into this relationship where they wanted us to create actual Barbies for production for collector.
Yes.
And we did these two amazing bookend Barbies that represented everything that is our brand, from diamonds to chains. So it made total sense. And one of the, I mean, it's obviously Philippe's style and Philippe's persona. And it was the first time Barbie was in drag. That's what they said.
Drag queen Barbie.
It was a scandal.
Yeah, it was. I remember waking up. First of all, the Barbie came out. I was so excited because everyone could, you know, own a little bit of the blondes, and the collectors could have.
But it was getting pretty good traction. But you know, it was just getting
so
the regular
amazing.
round of press kind of thing. But then all of a sudden,
we woke
like
up
1 million
one day,
moms freaked out.
Yes, 1 million moms freaked out, and then I remember this so vividly. I remember waking up and putting on New York One and seeing my photo on the TV, and it was not a flattering photo, and it was next to our Barbie, and I was like,
and they're like, Barbie does drag. It's, you know.
yeah, Barbie does drag, and I was like, oh my God, like.
Please,
It's
like,
beautiful.
Thank you. I know, that's what I said. I was like,
Even my straight uncle was like, that's the most beautiful doll I've ever seen.
Right? Right. It's so beautiful. And it's one of the rarest ones and hard to get.
Very hard.
Yes.
oh yeah.
All right.
And we're wrapping up, and we're going to look a little bit at some of the celebrities that you've
Okay.
worked with. So, you know, in going through all the celebrities who've worn, it's a lot of blondes, you know, Lady Gaga, Madonna, this is incredible. But then we get to this, I would like to talk about a little bit. You have a popular dress. Several people want to wear it for photo shoots. And this particular one I saw on so many celebrities. Do they come to you and say, oh, I need an exclusive? I mean, how do you navigate this?
Again, that depends on the client. Sometimes they don't care, and they assume that whatever they do is going to eclipse anyone else. And some people will come and say, you know, I don't want anything anyone else has worn. Because it's gotten to that point where there is that competition, and people do get, you know, shown side by side, and they don't want to be compared to other people. So everybody wants to be an individual.
Yeah, but when you're a star, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, you wear it, it's you, there's no one else. It's you wearing it for the first time, no matter what. No one's ever worn it, even though they have.
But you can see the difference,
matter.
though, here, too.
Yeah.
I mean, the two moods here are completely different.
Yes.
They're two totally different people. They're two totally different sets. One shot is Ellen von Unworth. The other one was Plea for Paper magazine. But it's like, it changes on different people. And it's interesting, the pieces that are popular. That's what surprises us sometimes.
But yes, there are some of those stars that sometimes they're like, oh, I don't want to wear that if she wore it.
There's a gown that you'll see in the exhibition by Balenciaga that was worn by Elizabeth Taylor, and during the research for the event that she wore it to, it turned out that there was a second woman in the same Balenciaga dress, and they hadn't known that because one was at a store and one was at the atelier. So but they were very gracious that they had both arrived in the same unique gown.
Amazing.
So, recently, Missy Elliott, she performed at the Barclays Center for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Mm-hmm. You've done beautiful things for Missy Elliott.
Yeah.
And clearly she's dancing a lot on stage, not in 120 centimeter heels. Mm-hmm. So that's a different type of design that you're working on.
Her and I have the same type of footwear in common, for sure.
Okay.
She definitely likes to be more comfortable, although she's become more adventurous more recently. And for her tour we finally got to put her in a cat suit and do little things like that. So typically it's very much like the tracksuit, like you see here. But for this particular one, talk about gold. I mean, I think you were there when they were doing it.
There.
Yeah, that was all those stones they're aurum, so they're coated in actual gold. So she was like so excited about it because it was like, there was not one piece that was not like gilded.
Blingy. No, it was the most amazing concert, and she was like sparkling the whole time on stage, and they had given everybody wristbands. So while she was performing, the whole theater was glowing from also, so she was emanating out into the audience. Mm-hmm. Well, last is I want to show. So you have a tradition now of coming out for your bow at the end of your runway show, and you have a kiss in front of the cameras. Mm-hmm. That's become a little bit of a signature for the end of your shows.
Yeah. I don't remember when the first time. It was funny because our first real show that we didn't do it, and I think it was because my dad was there, so I was like not wanting to make him uncomfortable. It was bad enough that Phillipe was like running down the runway in high heels and like Miss Piggy, but it was like, I think it was that one and then the Disney show were the two times that we didn't like do the peck.
No, I mean,
but
I like to seal it with a kiss. Mm-hmm. I think I part with that show. I think once we were talking about this, so many people were like, oh my God, this person copies you, this person does this person, and I see it. I don't focus on it because I feel like as an artist, like once you create something, you part with it. And you show it, you just let it go. I mean, there's way much more that we're gonna create and come up with and ideas we have, but every show was a kiss to seal the show shut and close. But that does not mean that I like to be continue idea. I'm kind of like that era, like to be continue. All my shows are sort of like that moment of like,
each one is a chapter.
Yeah, a chapter. It's to be continue. It's not that show was the gold show. Oh my God, they can't do anything gold anymore. It's like to be continue, honey. So yeah, every show is sealed with a kiss at the end.
Oh, wow. I know it's always a great moment at the end of your shows, and I think we're all looking forward to all of the new inventions, new designs that we're going to see in the next season. Mm-hmm. Hope in the next season, yeah. And I understand that there might also be a documentary in the works.
Mm-hmm. Things are cooking.
Yeah. Okay. Netflix.
Cool. Are we doing questions, Margot?
Uh-oh.
Or do we have questions?
No one wants a question? All right.
We can take up to 3 questions. We just want to make sure there's plenty of time for you to get your books and have moments with the blondes. If you want to ask a question, feel free to
There's one over
approach
here.
the mic in the aisle.
Testing, yeah, lovely. Hi, I'm Tino.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. On behalf of Barbie collectors, that would be me. Do you think perhaps there might be a third Barbie coming up? Uh-oh.
I can't say anything, but
Yeah.
Potentially, yes.
Thank you. I just needed to know that. Thank you very much.
If you were going to do a third Barbie, what would the look be?
Oh, dude, we've got so many ideas. Like it's hard. We haven't nailed it down yet, but
It would be a big box.
it would be
A big box, so.
a large unboxing.
Yes.
We'll put it that way.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Crickets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tyron.
Uh-oh.
Of course, you know, I've been around for the Blonde ride since the beginning when we first met. So I'm just going to share a quick little story. Just because it was Tyra Banks' birthday yesterday, so I reposted all of these amazing covers that we did for Cosmo, and they never knew the story behind it. So I'm starting this cover, and they don't want anything crazy. They want to put these sheath dresses on Tyra. So I zip her up. We're backstage, and she says, "I look like talk show Tyra. I don't really like this." I said, you know, let me go back to my editor that I was working with. So I said, she don't like it. So let's go back to plan A. So I crack out this blonde, mirrored, crack corset. And we put a little skirt with it, and we started to shoot the cover story. And if you ever work for any of these big magazines like a Cosmo, they're feeding the server as we're shooting this, going to all of the Cosmos around the world. All of a sudden, the doors bust open. The editors, like the big, like senior editors, jumped into a taxi cab. They came down to the studio, and they all came in, and they were like, "Where is she? And what is that thing she's wearing?" And I was like, "Oh, she's in the back. Come on, let me introduce you." And I introduced them to Tyra Banks and the Blondes, and they were like, "The Blondes? What is that?" Now, mind you, this is Hearst, this is Cosmopolitan magazine, and they're a little bit old school. So we got a chance to introduce them to the Blondes. And in that one day, we were there to shoot one cover. By the time everything was done, by the end of the day, 13 countries wanted a cover, 11 confirmed, and we had like a worldwide media blitz of Tyra Banks and the Blondes in this beautiful gold corset.
We literally
There you
wallpaper.
go.
It was Tyra wallpaper.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank
And we got
you.
you into Russia and all these different amazing countries, and it was a great moment. We need to do it again.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
We good? Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to books.
Amazing. Let's do it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.